Hi there, students. I'm XS. That's little x, little s, which stands for extra sweet, because that's what I am. Mo sugu Halloween! Sugoku de shinda! It's almost Halloween. I'm so excited. Do you have your costume picked out yet? I'm going to be wearing a sorceress costume, but you can't see it yet. For today's grammar drop, I'm going to teach you about things resembling other things, like a costume. There are a couple ways that you can say costume in Japanese. Since it's related to what we're talking about today, I'll teach you one of them. You might just say costume in katakana. Costume. And of course, that's going to give us a portmanteau that I'm sure you all know. Oof. I did not mean for that to rhyme. Anyway, cosplay. I really enjoy when Japanese creates a portmanteau from two English words and then that new word makes its way back into the English lexicon. It really makes me so happy. Especially because I recognize that there are probably many people who use the word cosplay without realizing that it comes from Japanese, but that it actually comes from English. Pokemon is the same way, right? Pokemon comes from pocket monster, Poketo monster. So when your mom is like, Pokemon, what does that mean? I don't speak moon speech. You can laugh at her because Pokemon is technically just two English words. And also because she's apparently racist. Whatever. Anyway, grammar drop time. Talking about things resembling other things. I'm going to teach you two concepts today. It's Halloween, so you get a tiny bonus. So, first up, a verbal compound that means to resemble. Niteiru. The sentence pattern for using this verb compound could be something along the lines of this example. Kyuketsuki ni niteiru. To resemble a vampire. Resembling a vampire. Now, okay, technically this is a perfectly alright sentence, but I think you can see how this isn't a particularly useful sentence. Because, like, in what context are you going to use this sentence? Resembling a vampire! We've technically left off the subject of this sentence, and as I've said before, often in Japanese that's okay. But in this case, you really need some context to understand what's happening here. Well, let's take a look at what this same structure looks like with a subject attached. X wa y ni niteiru. You know, I've talked in other videos about how x, y des sentences are equative, right? So this is fairly similar, isn't it? We have an x, y ni niteiru sentence, which means x resembles y. But there's a really important distinction here. I want to look at specific examples, and then we'll talk about this kind of important point that I want to make. So here's an example. Manager-sama wa kyuketsuki ni niteiru. Manager-sama looks like a vampire. Sure. I believe you. So here's the point that I want to make. This sentence means that Manager-sama resembles a vampire. But it does not imply that some random vampire, or even every single vampire, resembles Manager-sama. This is, in other words, a one-way relationship. One thing resembles another thing, but not necessarily the other way around. That's going to hold true for pretty much anything that we might use within the context of the X and the Y in this sentence. Any X resembles any Y, but not necessarily the other way around. Ano biru wa gakkou ni niteiru. That building resembles a school. That building looks like it's a school. But that wouldn't imply that a school resembles that building, because you're taking a small example and comparing it to a universal example. Or another case. Puppy-Sensei wa inu ni niteiru. Puppy-Sensei looks like a dog. Same thing, right? It makes sense that Puppy-Sensei looks like a dog, but it wouldn't make sense for a dog to look like Puppy-Sensei. Well, I mean, you get what I mean. But what if we wanted a two-way relationship? Well, we can make that work. Puppy-Sensei wa manager-sama to niteiru. So we've changed the ni to a to, right? We changed the ni before niteiru to to niteiru. And that gives us a sentence that's kind of like Puppy-Sensei and manager-sama look alike. No, I'm not. I mean, well, I guess they say dog owners kind of look like their dogs or whatever. Just don't worry about it. So, what are we doing with this to niteiru construction? It's like this thing and this thing look alike. They look like one another. Our x wa y niteiru sentence is one directional. X looks like y. But our x wa y to niteiru instead implies that x and y look like one another. They look alike. Okay, as promised, I want to give you one more example of a way that we can talk about one thing resembling something else. And this is an example that really makes me giggle. Okay, so here's a noun that means something like a resemblance or a similarity, right? It's a noun, it means similarity. You might notice right off the bat that the second kanji here, which we're going to pronounce G in this case, is the same kanji that we saw in niteiru above, right? That kanji sort of implies cases like to become, to turn into something, or it can be used in some cases with a kanji compound that means something like counterfeit or fake. The first kanji, which is pronounced rui here, means a type, a kind, a variety, or a sort. This is also one of those nouns that can take suru to form a verb, like this one, ruiji suru. This actually can be really handy for forming longer sentences, since we can use this to modify some other noun just by sticking it in front of a noun, and then we can create a longer nominal phrase, as in a case like this. Majo ni ruiji suru kostyumu o kaitai. Do you see what's happening in this complex sentence? Our verb is kao, which is to buy, but it's in the tai form, which implies that you want to do that verb. I want to buy. And what is it that I want to buy? This entire huge noun compound, and the whole noun in the sentence, the whole thing really is Majo ni ruiji suru kostyumu. So what is it that I want to buy? A costume that looks like a girl witch, right? In English, we would probably just say, I want a girl witch costume, or I want a sorceress costume. But in Japanese, we can build this gigantic noun because Japanese is an agglutinative language, right? So it just keeps kind of adding things and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And as a result, we can form these huge noun phrases, and that's pretty cool because then we can form a really big sentence just like this, where we just have a noun and a verb, right? I want to buy something. What is it that I want to buy? It's a costume. Okay, so why does the word ruiji make me giggle? Because the word ruiji means for one thing to resemble another thing. And who do we know that resembles somebody else? Luigi. Yep, that's surely how he got his name. Luigi. He resembles Mario. All right, I'll see you all next week. Please have a safe and happy Halloween. Take care of yourselves, and remember, I'm so proud of you. Mata laishu.